Speaking of strong opinions in Arizona, we got our last game.
Strawberry opinions.
Strawberry opinions in Arizona.
Home of the ice cream.
Home of the melted ice cream.
Yeah.
Hot.
Cactus flavor.
Yeah. Cactus.
Ooh.
Mm.
Let's delete it.
Rock flavor.
I'll try it.
It's got like the thorns in it though. It's the
In the ice cream.
Yeah, in the ice cream. Do you want it real or not?
The flavor might be so good it's worth it. Right? It's worth the pain.
Yeah, the prickles, the pricklies.
Free toothpick.
My tongue may be bleeding, but my heart isn't.
Challenge.
Yeah.
Arizona cactus ice cream challenge. Can you eat the ice cream without piercing your tongue?
It's just like an awful thumbnail of you like with like things coming out of your freaking mouth. Like bleeding and stuff. It's like, but it tastes so good. All right, my game. I do RPGs, so I picked an RPG. I don't know that I'll finish it, but my favorite game is Chrono Trigger, and I noticed that a lot of RPGs stay away from time travel, and rightfully so. It's kind of a disastrous thing to do. I mean, some of them have like little hints of it, like Dragon Quest V has an element of it, but nobody usually makes it like a big gameplay mechanic. So it's always nice to see one try it. Now, this game, not a lot of people talk about, but the ones that do talk about it seem pretty high on it. And I've had it downloaded for a little bit, but never really invested time into it, hoping that I would someday. And I guess this was the perfect opportunity to, because it's eShop month. So my game is Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. It is a remake of a Nintendo DS game, obviously called Radiant Historia, and it deals with time travel. I am not far in this game at all, so there's probably a lot that I'm missing about it. And just looking at some of the pictures that I see, I haven't seen some of this stuff yet, so I don't want to give any full-on like amazing reviews of it. I'm just going to give you my impressions of what I've played so far, and even the story, I don't even think I'm anywhere near being able to explain what's going on. But I start out with this guy. He's got red. He's all in red, and he's blonde. And it's a turn-based RPG. I will say that it has some element of tactics to it. So your enemies are on a grid, 3x3 grid, and they all have their own placement on there, and you can manipulate where they stand based on some abilities that you have. So you use that to enable combos. So like you can knock one person into another person, and then the rest of your party attacks that group instead of just the one, because you're attacking basically a square, not an individual. And then so they'll do combos based on that. And you get more experience points by doing that. I'm of two minds with that concept. I like that idea, and I've always been interested in how you can combine a tactics RPG with just a traditional turn-based. I don't know if I see what they're doing as something I would like to do for like 50 hours, which is what a usual RPG takes. But I'm willing to keep trying because there's some interesting concepts to it. As far as time travel, where the gameplay picks up on that is, so far it hasn't really been a gameplay mechanic so much as a story mechanic, where I did something in my game and they're like, you're going to go back in time and do something completely different to save your party, because my party essentially got wiped out, and then I went back in time. But so far, it's all been through the story. Now, I'm sure based on what I've seen so far, I can see where they're going to integrate it where it's more of a gameplay mechanic as opposed to just a story mechanic. So I'm kind of excited to see how that goes, and I don't know. I'm impressed, and then in other ways, not so impressed. Graphically, most 3DS games I feel look a lot better than this one. I've noticed that. I'm not sure, because it reminds me kind of like a Final Fantasy IX when they remade it. I still like that game, but you'll notice in like the HD remaster of it that the character sprites were not sprites, I guess, but the character models and stuff were spruced up significantly, but the backgrounds were not. So there's like a very big disconnect. I think you can fix it in mods, which I might actually do. But there's a difference between them, and it's pretty noticeable. In Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology, it's very noticeable. Your characters are just very almost like outlined and very digital looking, and the backgrounds are more matte or almost look like a lot smoother. And so when the characters walk on it, there's a juxtaposition that's kind of uncomfortable. I'm not sure why that is, or if they just didn't bother to fix that or something. And then things that you can interact with on the screen are also like the characters, like they're meant to be. They're seen as different than the backgrounds. So that part is a little bit odd. It gives it kind of a cheap looking feel to it, which I don't really care for. But I kind of give it a pass because I understand it's a DS game and they're trying to recreate that and just add a bunch of content to it. So I try to look past it. The characters themselves seem kind of interesting. It also has an issue that I'm seeing in a lot of RPGs, especially this era, that I don't care for. But I also understand why it's there. There's a lot of talking, and maybe I'm still in the early stages of it, but it's like I don't need to hear everybody's little detail about everything they're thinking. I feel like a lot of this stuff I can infer. So, but they still do it sometimes. Like I know SMT, Soul Hackers. I don't even think it's called SMT anymore. But Soul Hackers 2 had a lot of talking in it, and I just kind of dealt with it because there is a good game underneath it. So this game, I'm hoping, has that as well. So those are my initial thoughts on Radiant Historia. I wish I could say more, but that's where I stand with it. I'm going to keep playing it, although I have some other priorities, so I don't know how it'll fit into that.
Is this a remake of the DS game? Is that right?
Yeah, Radiant Historia.
Okay.
It's not that much remade though. It's mostly just added content and just an excuse to cash in on the 3DS RPG fans.
That's what it seems like.
Is this an excuse to cash in on a DS game?
Yeah, the 3DS had a lot of them.
Sorry, I had to rephrase my question.
Yeah.
I've always heard of this one, but it just isn't one that's ever been on my radar. Would I like it?
No.
Okay, thank you.
That is all. I don't know. There's Reddit groups, I'll say it nicely, that I've been on and seen, and they make some pretty bold statements, and usually they're pretty unfounded, but they're like, if you think Chrono Trigger's time travel is good, I mean, you think Chrono Trigger is a good game about time travel, Radiant Historia is way better. And I kind of roll my eyes at stuff like that because it's clearly inflammatory. But I wanted to give it a chance, and so far it's been fine. I'm willing to keep going. I don't know that they're even like in the same league of games. And I don't necessarily mean that like Chrono Trigger's in a better league, although I do think that. But I just see it as they're completely different games. Like Radiant Historia is very anime. Even when you boot it up, it's like got the rock music with some anime girl shrieking at you. So it's like Chrono Trigger is not that, and they're just. I feel like they're aiming for very different things, but I'm curious at the least.
Isn't that intro like remake exclusive? Like all those animated cutscenes? I feel like that's not on the DS.
I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
I couldn't tell you.
I played this on DS for like a little bit, and then my experience was that I found it was convoluted, especially the time travel thing, to the point where I wasn't grasping it. I'm not a Chrono Trigger stan or anything, but it is straightforward, especially with the time travel and everything. So I can appreciate that about that. I would have to like really commit to this game, I feel like. And I don't know that it's warranted. What I do know is that a lot of people Chrono Trigger was on the DS as well as Radiant Historia. So like it's like, oh well, you want another great RPG on DS? Well, here you go. And it's very similar. Time will tell.
And you have Mario and Luigi Partners in Time too. Man, the DS had a lot of time RPGs.
There's a cooking mama. You can cook with time.
And I am a Chrono Trigger stan, thank you. And I wish Chrono Trigger had an anime opening AMV.
It does. But it's not. It's more normal, and it's also got an anime to it. There's a two episode anime of Chrono Trigger. That's pretty.
That's called an OVA.
It's pretty bizarre. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Chrono Trigger Stan.
Chrono Trigger stan.
I appreciate your commitment to the Chrono Trigger timelines.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, don't forget to subscribe to them button mappers.